Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to Right Side Up. My name is Mike Taglavia. We'll be flying solo today. There's a few things I'd like to discuss with you. First, question. How many of you have started a fire? We've gotten a little bit of chilly weather in the morning. I'm wondering if how many of my listeners, our listeners, have decided it's cold enough that we need to have a little fire in the wood stove to take the chill off in the house. It's that time of year, so just curious. Couple of other things. I was lucky enough to on last Thursday evening, win an award. The Vermont GOP had an awards night. There were 4 awards, I believe, and I was lucky enough to win one. I won the People's Choice Award. And the reason I want to acknowledge that is because I want to acknowledge the people who helped me achieve that award. And it's a lot of the friends that I've made is right after I decided to get involved with my town Republican committee and then my county Republican committee. Because that's where making all of the friends and the friends statewide in Vermont that helped me grow into the number one, first of all, the candidate and now the legislator that I am. When I first ran, I ran for Attorney General. I met a lot of people in a very short period of time. And as most people know, a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. And I try to remind myself that if I think of myself as the weakest link, and I'm always trying to find stronger links than me to attach myself to link up with, to network with, then I always stand a better chance of growing and being better at what I do. So I wanted to thank all of my friends who have helped me along the way over the past, I don't know, it's something like 5 years now. And there was one other group that I thanked the other night that I want to also acknowledge here, and it's the spouses, including my wife, but spouses and significant others and the families of the legislators, the elected officials who serve, because this takes a toll on everyone involved, not just the legislator. It takes a lot of time, takes a lot of effort, time away from family, friends, things like that. So friends and spouses and significant others, I attribute to me being able to be effective at what I have been doing and get elected and try to make a difference for Vermonters, not just in my district, but statewide. So very heartfelt thank you. And I mean that. It's nice to know that, getting an award like that, it sends a message that, people notice, and it's great. And it energizes me to keep carrying on. So thank you again. There's a couple of other things. I read an article, I think it was on Vermont Daily Chronicles, and I don't remember the headline. I don't have it in front of me, but something to the effect with the headline was, well, my vote just goes clunk. And I've been thinking about it, and I just wanted to answer to that article, because I don't believe that's true. I don't believe that's true. One of the reasons why I do this show, why I try to have co-hosts with me to have a conversation, is to inform all of the listeners out there and try to inspire our listeners and voters and residents to get involved. And that's what I tried to do when I ran for office this last election season. And I'm not doing this to pat myself on the back. I'm doing this to try to inspire everyone who's listening. Some people, a lot of people, say that, I'm too busy, or I don't have enough time or enough money to do something like that. You have to decide what it's going to take to get you off the couch, to get you off the sideline, and go to a select board meeting or a planning commission meeting or a school board meeting or a town committee meeting. In my case, it was town and county Republican committee meetings. Because there are a lot of you out there who do have something to offer and you just don't realize it. You do have something to offer. Many of you are businessmen and women. You have some sort of expertise that you could use, that any organization, any group, any candidate, any town or county committee could avail themselves to make the rest of the team, give the rest of the team more time to do other things, or to just to take the load off. Since we're all very busy, having more people on the team takes the load off, so the work gets done faster. So we have more time for those other things that matter to us so much in life. So I just wanted to remind people of that. And the last thing that I would say in response to that, the article where the author said that basically that the author did not believe that one vote counted. His one vote counted. And I can tell you, I don't believe that's true at all. When I was campaigning, I was always asking people, talk to your friends, talk to 10 of your friends. Please have 10 of their friends talk to others. Keep that up. And make sure that those same people that you talk to get out and vote, whether it be on the voting day or fill out that mail-in ballot that we get sent, every single one of us in Vermont. Fill it out, because it does count. And I can tell you, I'm living proof that it does count. I was elected in a tax revolt. People had decided they had enough. And they came out and they voted, and it made a difference. I really, truly believe that. It made a difference. So you are not alone out there. For all of you people who believe you're not alone, you're not. I had the pleasure this past weekend of spending almost the whole day on Sunday at the Corinth Fall Fest. And it was a beautiful, beautiful day. It really was a great day. Beautiful weather, great turnout. And we just set up our little booth and just stood by and said hello to people walking by and waited for people to engage with us. And it's really nice to see, people walk up and say, questions like, oh, well, are there Republicans in Orange County? And the answer is yes, there are. There are a lot of us out there. There are a lot of us out there, not only in the state of New Hampshire, but in the state of Vermont. But we have been kind of driven underground, and I and most of my colleagues and caucus members in the Vermont House are here to tell you that you're not alone. And when you get out and get involved, when you talk with your friends and neighbors, and I understand there are some friends and neighbors who you just can't have that conversation with. You cannot bring up politics. There are some who will just immediately go into orbit. I get that. But there are people who will engage you. And those are the people I'm talking about. Because you are going to find people who will talk with you and have a conversation, and that's what it's all about. When the talking stops, that's when it's really dangerous. That's when it's very, very dangerous. So have a discussion about something, because you'll find that you can find common ground with people, even people you think you couldn't find any common ground with. You can. It's possible. You can do it. I've done it. So the other point I wanted to make, and I think I might have made this point after the Tunbridge Fair, but you never know who you're talking to. I had someone walk up and started asking questions, and this person sounded very, very curious. So I'd asked if they were involved with their town or county committee. And that's when the real conversation started. This person told me that She believed or liked RFK Jr. when he first came on the scene and was running for president. And then he started having conversations with our current president, President Trump, and friends who were Democrats and liberals. When she mentioned that she liked RFK Jr., said that, oh, well, he's crazy. And that really struck a nerve. So what happened, the beginning of the transformation for her and the enlightenment for her, was when she found a long-form interview of RFK and came to the conclusion that what she was told to believe was not what this person, RFK, stood for, what he was all about. And she started to do more and more research on people who she was told she shouldn't like, shouldn't believe. And through that, she came to the conclusion that that was the way she was going to get her information about people. And that's where the transformation really took off. So we have somebody now who was liberal, was Democrat, progressive maybe even, and then now is somewhere in the independent and leaning Republican realm. So you never know until you start talking to someone. This is why I say having a debate, having a conversation is healthy. This is how we get our problems solved, either in our neighborhood or up in Montpelier, in my case. We need to have the debate. Leaving a bill up on the wall doesn't fix a problem. There are plenty of bills on the wall that pertain to public safety issues in our state, that pertain to cost of energy in our state, that pertain to housing, the cost of housing, and the time delays to get a home built or renovated so that we can work on our housing stock in this state, which is at a very low level. So I am always, and I'm not going to stop talking to people about and encouraging people to inform themselves. This is why I sit behind the microphone, to help inform people, to give you something to spark your curiosity to do a little bit of your own research, or maybe a lot of your own research. And maybe with a little bit of luck, I'll inspire you to get off the couch, get out into the neighborhood, start talking to people, and maybe you'll be the next person to run for school board or JP or state representative or senator, because you do have something to offer. After all, I just need to remind you, this was about this. Our country was founded with the idea of citizen legislatures, meaning all of us who live and work in our towns and cities being the ones who go to the legislature and make the laws or repeal the laws if we find out that they were mistakes. This is how we best do it. Having career elected officials, politicians, is not the fix for the problems we have. Having the people who live and work in our cities, towns, neighborhoods, hamlets, municipalities, whatever you call them, that's how we fix it. Citizen legislature. So please, I ask you, don't think that you do not have something to offer. We all living out here in this beautiful Green Mountain State have something to offer. So please consider that. Please think about that. Think about, if you have even a small amount of time, there's a committee or a commission or something at the town or state level that could use your help. So really, I'd like for you to consider that. I've burned through my first segment, ladies and gentlemen. We've got to pay some bills, so we'll be right back. You're listening to Right Side Up.
Not everyone can get up every day and look for ways to piss people off. But here at GraniteRock.com, we do that almost every day. I can't tell you how many times someone's lost their SHIT and threatened to end us. But we're still here, pissing people off. It's almost like we enjoy it. And we've been doing it since 2006. That's almost 2 decades of news, politics, and opinion, and now podcasts, and we're just getting started. We believe in principles before parties and politicians. We defend free markets and individual liberty, and if that makes you mad, it makes us smile. We're like Grandma after she stopped caring what other people thought. If that sounds refreshing, you need to check us out. This is Steve McDonald for Granite Rock, and we'll keep shining the light on them for you.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to Right Side Up. My name is Mike Taglavia. I want to switch gears a little bit here. This first airing of this show is October 14th in the morning, and I just wanted to just pay tribute again to Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk, I believe this would have been his birthday on the 14th. There is actually a vigil in Bradford, Vermont at 7 p.m. at Bradford Academy this evening, October 14th, if you can make it. There's a vigil. It would be nice if people could make it. Anybody close enough in the listening area. But I wanted to read you also an article. Now, this article is appearing in the latest October 2025 edition of AMAC, a magazine I get because I'm one of those old people, you know. And there's an editor's note that I want to read to you first. This article was submitted prior to the tragic events of September 10th, 2025. In loving memory of Charlie Kirk, a wonderful man, husband, father, and friend to myself and to America. Okay, so this, like I said, is written by Charlie, was written before his tragic death. And it's titled, America Must Choose, MAGA or Mamdaniism. And I don't like that term, MAGA. I prefer Make America Great Again, because how can you argue with that? But anyway, whenever a nation goes into crisis, an invisible countdown begins. We may not be able to see it. We may not know how much time is left. But the countdown is there, the countdown to reform or revolution. When a nation faces major problems that leave the people of the country distressed and unhappy, they can either solve the problem responsibly through reform, or they can wait for it to explode in revolution. America has passed this test before, where other nations failed. At the dawn of the 20th century, Theodore Roosevelt curbed the worst excesses of the Gilded Age and encouraged broad-based prosperity, sparing America from the communist, socialist, and fascist revolutions that rocked Europe in the decades that followed. Now America is in a challenging period once again. Young Americans are in crisis, and the crisis is getting worse. They look around and they feel like the entire country is rigged against them, and the life that their parents and grandparents lived is no longer available. 40 years ago, the average home in the U.S. cost the equivalent of 3.5 years of income. Today, the median home costs about 6 times the average income. In most of California, it's more than 10 times the average income. Since 1980, the age of the median home buyer has risen from 31 to 56. 10 years of that increase have happened since the COVID pandemic. It's not just housing. In 1980, public college tuition averaged $2,800 in today's dollars. Today, the average is about $10,000. Unsurprisingly, the average college graduate has a huge amount of student loans. Yet even if they studied a serious STEM subject, their job prospects are rough, in part due to AI, but also because America has, for decades, been importing foreign replacements for all kinds of skilled work. All the economic pressures would be bad enough, but young people face other troubles as well. The kids entering the workforce today spent high school trapped inside for COVID lockdowns. They are more anxious and depressed than any prior generation, have fewer friends, and most of them are on track to never get married. Almost no young Americans are politically moderate. No 21-year-olds are racing out to vote for Lindsey Graham or demand the return of Joe Manchin. Whether they lean right or left, young Americans want big change. And if one side can't give them those changes, they're happy to do a complete political 180 to get them. Last fall, Donald Trump did remarkably well with young Americans precisely because he offered them a real platform for major change in America. A revival of American manufacturing, a return to having a border, and no woke policing their every word and thought. But most importantly, Trump offered the most basic and compelling platform of all. When he was president, the economy grew for low-wage workers most of all, and Trump could credibly promise to bring that back. Now in New York, we can see another possible end result of this generation's difficulties. As I write this, Zohran Mamdani is the heavy favorite to become the next mayor of New York City. Mamdani is offering a simple, revolutionary message to disaffected young people. This message is, in essence, quote, all those things you want and don't have, you can just vote them to yourself. Housing too costly? Freeze the rents. Tired of price inflation? Government-run grocery stores and daycares will fix it. Oh, and we'll pull back the police and arrest Benjamin Netanyahu while we're at it. If Mamdani wins and implements his promises, it will be a fiasco. Price controls won't solve a housing shortage, and government-run grocery stores will work about as well as they did in the Soviet Union. And I might add they'll work just about as good as they did in Venezuela in the more recent past. Meanwhile, the left's endless war against all forms of economic productivity will drive more and more jobs out of New York, forcing even higher taxes on the saps poor enough to stay behind. But because he offers a simple and revolutionary message during difficult times, Mamdani's message will always be popular. And even if his tenure in New York is the disaster I fully expect, his cancer will spread to other places if we cannot get America into a position where young people feel satisfied with their opportunities. And that's going to mean embracing some policies that put young Americans first. If we loosen regulations to drive more home building, it will mean that the homes of seniors will appreciate less. We may have to prioritize the welfare of young people over the welfare state. But it must be done because what would you rather have? A MAGA reform or a Mamdani revolution? So one of the reasons I wanted to read this was twofold. Well, number one, we're airing it on what I believe is Charlie Kirk's birthday. It's written by Charlie. And he was always going out to universities to talk, to use what I'm using right now, ladies and gentlemen, his voice and his microphone, to have a discussion, to talk to people, to tell mostly the students. Sometimes there would be professors who would do the verbal duel with Charlie Kirk, and in most cases they would lose anyway. But Charlie would go out to universities, where universities are what I believe helped to get us into this mess, and that's why Charlie went there, because he wanted to change the hearts and minds of the young students who he knew their future was bleak if he didn't give them the truth. That's what he was all about, truth, the data, the facts. And that's what he brought to all of his debates. And I say debates, not arguments, because that's really what he wanted to do. He wanted to have a back and forth with any student who was willing to step up to the microphone. You know, and in this article, Charlie brings up a number of things, and he referred to the Soviet Union, but there are other countries, like I said. Venezuela at one point was a very prosperous country in South America. It's no longer very prosperous. And there were the promises that this Zoran Mamdani is making in New York City, trying to become the mayor, are the same promises that many tyrants from history have made in the past. And if we don't learn from the past, we're doomed to repeat it. And that's not a quote from me, and I cannot remember who said that, but it's very true. It's very true. And one of the things that bothers me, and one of the reasons why I try to address young people, both on the show and when I'm talking, no matter where I am, is to remind them about history, to try to get them to read about some of the personalities from history who can inform them about what's going on, so that when they do get into a discussion or a debate with someone, they can speak from historical knowledge. You know, I was watching a few Charlie Kirk videos just the other day, and one of them was really, well, they're all very good, but this one struck a chord with me, because it's one of the things I find myself, if I'm on social media, if I'm on X, scrolling through and I see quotes from people like Thomas Sowell and Milton Friedman and other people like him. There was a video that I was watching that Charlie Kirk was questioning a young man who was an economics major, and he started asking this economics major if he had ever heard or was taught about Thomas Sowell. And the economics major, this young man, said he knew of Thomas Sowell. He had his book, but his professor wasn't teaching Thomas Sowell. He wasn't teaching Walter Williams or Milton Friedman or so many of the others. I forgot. Charlie named like 6 or 8 people from history who spoke so well and wrote so well about economics, but this young man in economics in a university was not being taught. He was only being taught apparently one side. So that's one of the things that Charlie did very well. He tried to give the other side. He tried to give the other side of the coin that young university students weren't given. In other words, they were being told what to think, not how to think. And he was trying to encourage them to learn how to think, to learn to be critical thinkers, to see both sides, to read from both sides so they can make their own decision. And see, and so they could understand that capitalism, not so much the capitalism we have today, because it's really not capitalism what we have today, but how capitalism is what brought so many people, including in this country, but across the world. Capitalism is what brings people up out of poverty and doesn't put them into poverty. Capitalism is what made so many of the things that we take for granted available to us today. If you look at if you just stop and look around you within 3 to 10 feet of you, if you're sitting in your car, capitalism is one of the reasons why you have that car. Look back and look at how the rise of the production system for vehicles do a little bit of research into Henry Ford. Look at some of the other things. The Industrial Revolution was one of the biggest drivers for the prosperity of this country. And if we don't recognize, and we're not taught, our children, our young people are not taught the good of capitalism and what it has done to get us to the point we are today, then we are definitely doomed to repeat history, to relive history. And I, for one, ladies and gentlemen, are really not interested in doing that. So we've burned through another segment here. Got to pay a few more bills. You're listening to Right Side Up.
Hey, this is Steve from Granite Rock. I'd like to thank Mike Tagliavia and Right Side Up for being part of Granite Grok and Grok Media LLC's podcast network. You can check out all our programs every night of the week at 8 p.m., except on Tuesdays when we do Granite State Live, which starts at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Please make sure to check out all our programming, including Grok Talk, Granite State Live, Justice for All, Right Side Up, Manch Talk, The New England Take, and our newest edition, The Elsa Kurt Show. You can also check out content from Shadowband, The Blue Collar Intellectual, The Generation Report, and the Vermont Podcast. And be sure to visit GraniteGrok.com for news and opinion you can't get anywhere else.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to Right Side Up. My name is Mike Tagliavia. Before we get into our discussion for this segment, I just want to remind everyone, if for some reason you cannot catch us on WNTK Radio, you can go to WNTK.com, find the podcast button, click on it, scroll down to Right Side Up, and you can listen to any number of our podcasts. You can find us on 802 Scoop, 802 Scoop Facebook. You can find us on Podbean. You can find us on GraniteGrok.com. And thank you to all of the outlets that carry us. I'm very thankful to have the voice and have the microphone to be able to share some of my conversation with you all in the listening audience. I wanted to talk a little bit about energy, because it's a big deal here in Vermont, as it is all over the country and all over the world. But there is actually, because of finally the surfacing of the truth and actual scientific data, and people being willing to have a discussion, a debate, and talk about what is the best course forward for energy use and reliability and affordability, that we, even in the state of Vermont, I believe we're going to see things change for the better, especially with respect to affordability. The article I want to read from to you is on energy security and freedom from Substack, Thomas J. Shepstone, titled, "The Climate Scam is Being Rejected by Necessity as One State After Another Faces Reality." This time it's Queensland, Australia, which is taking a giant step toward energy reality, led by the Liberal National Party of Queensland, LNP government of that state that gained power again a year ago. Joe Nova covers this mini revolution in energy policy here, and there's a great story at NBC News Australia that lays it out. And some of that is reproduced below. And Queensland's energy minister has announced the state's coal-fired power stations will operate until at least 2046, as he unveiled a long-awaited energy roadmap. The 5-year plan lays out what the role coal, gas, wind, solar, pumped hydro, and battery storage will play over the long term in Queensland. Quote, the former Labour government's decision to close coal units by 2035, regardless of their condition, is officially abolished today, end quote, David Janetsky said on Friday. The LNP has reset all of the state's coal-fired stations back to their, quote, technical lifespan end date, end quote. Mr. Janetsky said the LNP will introduce law changes into Parliament next week to repeal the former Labour government's legislated renewable energy targets. Does that sound familiar, Vermont? You think we should be doing some repeal work here? I think so. Let's see. The current targets are 50% renewable energy by 2030, 70% by 2032, and 80% by 2035. Deputy Opposition Leader Cameron Dick said the energy plan, quote, sends the wrong message, end quote, to North Queensland communities that depend on the Great Barrier Reef. The plan puts ideology above science, above tourism and jobs, and above Queenslanders. Now, maybe I should reword that sentence. Our plans in Vermont put ideology above science, above tourism, above jobs, above young people moving and staying in Vermont, above retirees staying in Vermont, and above Vermonters in general. How's that? That's a better sentence. I like that one. Quote, because of the LNP's ideological opposition to renewable energy and ideological obsession with coal-fired power, Queenslanders will pay more for their power. Notice how the opposition tries to pretend renewables lower electric costs when the opposite is not only the case, but also the reason voters are rejecting the climate scam. A subsequent article in the same journal addresses that public statement. Communities across Queensland have welcomed plans to keep coal and gas burning across the state, though some warn a lack of future planning could undermine short-term benefits. Energy Minister David Janetsky yesterday unveiled the state's new energy roadmap, placing coal and gas at its center while leaving room for renewables such as wind and solar and pumped hydro. Queensland's energy minister has unveiled a long-awaited roadmap outlining the state's future energy needs. The plan extends the life of coal-fired power stations to 2046 and expands gas generation, including a proposed new plant in central Queensland between Queensland Investment Corporation and the private sector. Mr. Janetsky said the plan replaced the former Labour government's coal closure with a sensible and pragmatic approach focused on economics and engineering. Let me repeat that. A sensible and pragmatic approach focused on economics and engineering. Ladies and gentlemen, how many of you would like to see a, quote, sensible and pragmatic approach to energy in the state of Vermont? I know I would. I know we have legislation that could actually put us on that path with a sensible and pragmatic approach. Let me get back to the article here. The Banana Shire, home to Biliola's Callide Power Station, and I'm sure I messed that up, will see the state-owned B units extended from 2028 to at least 2031. Even at the moment, there's a big overhaul on one of the units at Callide, and all the motels are full. It's brought prosperity and caused industry to grow, particularly in Gladstone heavy industry, until the Gladstone Power Station was up and running, and then Rockhampton, and then all of Queensland. The region's mayor, Nev Ferrier, said the town wanted to keep the station for as long as possible. There are 300 people who work out there, he said. Over 400 kilometers south in Yarraman, residents are equally pleased. Let's see. Let me scroll down a little bit more. A lot of workers live in our town. They spend money in our town. It would drastically affect a lot of businesses, He said, enough is enough. Queensland has chosen wisely. And as Joe Nova observes, wouldn't it be great if other states got the, quote, crazy idea that they can do this too, end quote. So what do you think, ladies and gentlemen? Can we decide that a lot of workers who live and spend money in our towns, small and large, is a good thing? Can we come to the crazy idea that we can do this as well? I think we can. I think it's about time we brought common sense back. It's really not allowed inside the doors of the State House, but as I was saying earlier, the idea that we only have, and I've said it before, only one option, or what we would be pushed toward one option for electricity or for energy, period, is being electricity, is not viable in the state of Vermont. And if we want an affordable Vermont, we need to have options. We need to have lots of options. If when we walk into a convenience store or a supermarket, we have options for what bread and dairy products we have, and among other things, what cereal we can buy, how many different types of meats we can buy, we need to have those options. And we know in this state, we're very environmentally conscious, that we can still be energy efficient, but we need to have the options of at least the top 3 or 4 or 5 energy options until we get and find better, cheaper, more reliable green energy options. Can someone say nuclear? With the advent of more and safer nuclear and smaller nuclear technology, how is it that we can't figure out a way to have 2 nuclear plants sited, probably one either reopen Vermont Yankee or a modular nuclear site at the Vermont Yankee site, because there is already the infrastructure there to feed it into our grid, which would make it probably the most cost effective, and have a second. Wouldn't it be nice for Vermont to be a net energy producer and exporter? Right now, we've talked about the Shaftesbury Solar that's going to the site, that it sounds like it's going to wind up being a fiasco for the state of Vermont. It's one of those things when people drive by it, if it does get built, they'll think, oh, look what the state of Vermont is doing. But we're not really doing it for the state of Vermont, because there's no guarantee that the electricity produced at that site will go to the benefit of Vermonters. So why would we even think about putting that on beautiful forested land and pasture land when we could change regulations, reduce regulations for beef and dairy farmers or any type of livestock farming operation, or keep the forest that's there as working lands to maintain and help improve our wood products industry? We could reduce and revisit some of the regulation that we have on our wood products industry. How about we have mills right here in the state, so we're not shipping all of our raw materials in the form of saw logs north of the border, so that they only get returned here as finished products to be used in the homes that we hope to be building in the near future, to the tune of 41,000 homes. That's a lot of homes. Why can't we just have all of these homes with lumber that's stamped finished in Vermont, made and sawed and finished in Vermont? Wouldn't that be a wonderful thing? Think of how many people we could keep employed in this state in a production economy. That's what we need in this state. We need a production economy. It's nice to have a tourist economy. It's nice to have a service economy, but when we have a thriving production economy, then we have an export. We have something that makes us more viable, makes us more financially secure as a state. There are ways that we can do this. We just need common sense. We just need common sense. And there is momentum. Please, ladies and gentlemen, for the sake of our young people, keep in mind that we do have momentum. If we have it nationwide and worldwide with respect to people finally coming to the realization about energy and the costs and what is really, truly affordable. And when we find out that subsidies are the only thing that keeps some of these solar and wind projects going, that solar and wind is really not competitive with the energy options that we already have, that are plentiful, that can get us far enough into the future until we do find more efficient, cleaner ways to produce our energy that we need, so that come February, when it's blowing 20 miles an hour and it's 5 below, that we can stay warm and the lights can stay on. We can have both, not one or the other. So I hope, ladies and gentlemen, you're as optimistic as I am for the future of Vermont. I believe the future is bright for Vermont. I think it's bright for the young people of Vermont, and I want to always make sure that everyone listening out there knows that there is a bright future, especially our young people. Do not for a minute buy the idea that there is no option for you in this state. There are options. There are options. So we've come to the end of another show, ladies and gentlemen. Remember, please be safe. Stay informed. Listen to Right Side Up.